I am most looking forward to the day where I get to look you in your eyeballs and say, I told you so. I told your black ass. I told you so. I told you so. Because the day, I'm looking at the camera now, the day ones know. Welcome to the Rich and Regular podcast, where we explore life at the intersection of money. I'm Kiersten.
And I'm Julien. And today we're talking about cooking better at home.
Amen.
This is something that's been brewing for a while, no pun intended. But yeah, we're going to talk about food. It's one of our favorite subjects, certainly one of my favorite subjects. But first, I got to give a shout out to Sierra Ennis.
CC.
I guess we're going to call her
I know.
Sierra.
My bad if you don't go by CC.
My bad if it's not Sierra, or it could be Kiara. I'm not sure. But she left us a really great comment on a YouTube video, said, "Hey, beautiful people. I found you all years ago pre-pandemic and haven't stopped watching. You both bring such value to the world with your content. It's my first time commenting on a podcast. Continued blessing."
Okay. Long-time listener, first-time commenter.
And this is how we know there are people out there. So if you're one of those people, don't be afraid. Engage. Leave us a comment. You know, everything doesn't have to be so private.
Your favorite little hole in the wall.
Listening to our conversations, but not engaging. You know, like I get it, but don't be afraid to comment. I'm reminding myself of that too. There are plenty of people that I support and watch, and I don't even subscribe to their channel. So don't do what I do.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I'm better now. I'm a lot better now. But like, you know, I used to just watch stuff all the time. And like, for whatever reason, I just didn't want to do it. As a creator, now I understand and like how important it is that people actually like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. And so, you know, shout out to all the people who've been longtime subscribers, and shame on the people who haven't learned that lesson that, hey, man, like, you know, it's hard out here. We need that love. So.
Yes. All right. So there's really two reasons I wanted to talk about this. The first one is that you shared this video on Instagram. I'll link it in the show notes. But it was about how basically all of these restaurants across the country are serving the same foods because of Cisco monopolizing that industry.
Mm-hmm.
So basically they acquired a bunch of food distributors, and now like the same jalapeno popper is served at TGI Fridays, your favorite local spot, whatever beachside in Florida.
Same thing.
It's the same popper.
Yeah.
And so, you know, despite the fact that you are paying more or less depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was so interesting. And then the second reason is because it truly is expensive outside, and then getting more expensive. Every year we say things like, you know, groceries are cheaper than eating out, and, you know, save your money, you got whatever at home. But this is the year that I feel like people are starting to take that seriously, because now we're on year 2 or 3 of double-digit hikes in prices. You know, they try to reset the clock and say things are up, you know, 4 to 6% over last year.
Mm-hmm.
But last year it was up like 15, 16%. And the year before that, it was up 20%. And so now we're talking about paying 40 to 50% more for something that you bought cheaper a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And the data even supports this. It says that eating out is about 4 times more expensive than cooking a meal at home, according to USDA data. As of 2024, the cost of food away from home, so that includes restaurants, takeout, DoorDash, Uber, any food that is not made in your home, rose by 4.1% in 2024, while the cost of food at home, aka your groceries, only rose by 1.2%.
Yeah.
So it's getting expensive.
Yeah, well, it is, to your point, it's been getting expensive for a couple of years now. And to your point, we're talking about double-digit growth, which is truly unforeseen. Like, it's not something that anyone, certainly not regular people, were paying attention to. You would have to have been an economist or someone who was familiar with all these things that are happening behind the scenes. And obviously, you can tell how this issue intersects with the political environment that we're in and all those other things going on there. But I want to go back to what you were saying, because you know, I'm clear that we live on different parts of the internet. I live on a part of the internet where there's still a shameful amount of people. And sometimes I can't really tell if they're joking or not when they say things like groceries are so expensive, it's cheaper to go out. And I've heard more than one people say that. And I find it to be a little cringe, Because,
Mm.
and again, I don't know if they're being serious or not. Is it just something they're just throwing out there or
Engagement
not?
farming.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But I think it feeds into another reason, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And then, when you stew on an issue long enough, you start to hear the data, but then you start to realize, like, what's going on? Like, how is it that people could even be questioning this? And that's how you know that the data can only tell you a part of the story, that
Mm-hmm.
there's this human element to what's going on. And that is why I framed up, as we were launching what we're getting ready to talk about a couple of weeks ago, in a reel on Instagram and on a short on YouTube, around what people say around why they don't cook more at home. Like, because you hear that a lot. Like, I don't even bother cooking because it's cheaper to go out. My New York friends, right? All my friends in New York and like these big cities, they talk about that kind of thing. Like, like, we got options. We'd rather go out rather than eat. And then they will say things like, oh, well, I'm just busy. Like, come on. Like, I got a
Yeah.
lot going on. I'm super busy. And I get that. I believe that to be true for sure. But I also know that, especially a lot of working people, it's like, you busy like you busy at work. Because that's not real busy. You know what I mean? Like, that's work busy. That's like pretending to be busy. You busy pretending to be busy. You know what I
And at
mean?
the end of the day, even if you're ordering out, you still got to wait for your food to be
You
made.
still got to wait
And
for
we
your
did a
food.
whole episode, I'll also link to that in the show notes, where we talked about kitchen tools that specifically allow you to multitask. You can still be busy and your food be prepared. Like, welcome to the 2020s.
Plenty of
Lots of
options.
technology out there that you can control from your phone.
So obviously there are tons of reasons why a lot of people don't cook at home. I think the bigger issue is the unspoken reason, which is that a lot of people don't cook at home because they don't like what they cook at home. And they'll never say that. Like, you'll never hear someone like, I don't cook at home because my cooking is terrible. Right? Like, they're not going to say that. Or like, actually, because like what I cook never tastes good. And honestly, I would rather just go out. Like, just say that. But they won't. And so I understand why. And that's one of the reasons why I really kind of wanted to do something about it. But before I get into what we're going to try to do about it, because that's a massive issue, I just want to give a little bit of background, because you never really know how people found us, right? So I think if you found us in the last couple of years, you know that we always kind of incorporate food and money. That's like one of our favorite things to do, is to kind of blend the two, or use food metaphors to try to explain financial concepts. But one of the reasons why is because my professional background, like my OG career, was actually as a chef. I used to cook professionally in some of Atlanta's best restaurants and hotels. But what I actually think is more, dare I say, impressive or meaningful, is that I've been cooking at home for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, I've been cooking at home. I cooked professionally for 7 years. I've been cooking at home for over 20 years. So I am, without question, quite familiar with what it takes to not just cook for yourself as a single man, but also how to cook for a family, a growing boy, cooking large meals for family gatherings and those kinds of things. And through all of that experience, there are tons of reasons why I think so many people struggle with cooking more at home. And obviously there's the skill issue, and we'll talk about that. But one of the issues that I don't think a lot of people even think about is that the kitchen in your home is a food service operation, right? It's not that different from a kitchen in a restaurant, except for a kitchen in a restaurant, in most cases, is designed for food service operations. Whereas kitchens at home are kind of designed for
Storage.
aesthetic,
Yeah.
reasons,
The
or
storing
for
of food.
storing food and storing equipment. It's not really designed to make cooking easy and efficient and simple. And so you have to do your part as someone who is experienced in the kitchen to make a decision about how your kitchen is going to be designed. And a lot of people don't really, you never think about that. You just think a kitchen is a kitchen. You kind of work with what you got. But there are a lot of people who will tell you, like, man, like, if I had the money, I would move this here, I would move that there, because it would make such a big difference, and it would make the entire cooking experience so much less complicated. The other layer to that is people bring their, I'll just call it equipment, but we're calling them appliances. We call them appliances. You bring them from one operation into another, which is no different than when you bring, let's say, your big old couch, when you used to have a big old living room, into now a smaller space, or you now have that dining room and you bring that into a smaller space or a larger space. It doesn't matter. People don't really think about that. And so the way that kitchens are designed is not really set up for success, and that adds to the frustration. And then on top of that, you have just the flat out reality that cooking is such an important life skill. And most people are just never taught how to do it. Like you are
Yeah.
taught how to brush your teeth, how to clean your body, because it's an important part of being an adult and certainly being an adult in this society. You would think cooking is as well, or eating is as well, but it's certainly not on the list of things that people make a point to teach their children or young adults how to do. We just kind of expect that it's going to happen somehow. And
Yeah.
then you're all of a sudden married. And even if you're not married, you're on your own and you're expected to just know how to do it. And it's like, when was I supposed to learn how to do that?
Because I think there's a difference between, like, even if you were taught how to cook, there is a point in your life where you're not just cooking to eat, you're actually feeding yourself and other people.
For sure.
And the feeding part is what is not taught. You can make an egg, you can make, fajita or whatever it is, a taco, but feeding other people and then feeding yourself based on what your body needs is a different skill set to me. It is
Yeah.
one that comes from a place of care and not just chore or task. As you were talking, I was thinking about all of the reasons why I never learned or don't currently cook. And you touched on several of them. I think the first one is that I didn't have the habit or the example. And it's not that my mom didn't cook. She absolutely did cook when we were growing up. But because she kept us busy after school, I didn't really see it. And I certainly didn't like jump in and help. I had all kind of after school extracurriculars, and then I had a job starting at 15. I didn't participate in the process. And so most of my meals in high school and beyond were at concession stands, at basketball games or football games, or were at the food court in the mall. So I didn't, it was just very normal to be eating out. The second thing was that my mom was a corporate professional when I was growing up. And so we did get takeout and dine out more than the average family probably did. She was just a working woman. And it's funny because when I think about what she did teach me, I think she spent more time teaching me things like how to braid and how to take care of my hair, other services that she paid for that she wanted me to do on my own, than she did cooking and preparing meals for the family.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because it's not something that she enjoyed. My mom's not a person who enjoys the act of cooking. I think the primary reason she does it is to feed her husband. She grew up in that era where you cook for your man. She still plates his food. Like it's deep in her. And so the idea of sharing it as like a bonding mechanism or, teaching your kids how to feed themselves just didn't come natural to her.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. If you don't enjoy it, like why pass it on to your
Yeah.
kids? Like there are other things that you can spend time with me doing. And then when I got on my own, it was exactly what you said. I just didn't like what I made. Like back
It's like, why do
then,
I keep on going through this?
yeah,
Like,
back then I felt like I was wasting money on ingredients. And so in my mind, it was cheaper. And it might have been. Like I got to look back at the prices of food back in the early 2000s and late 90s. Like it might have been cheaper, but my pantry, my kitchen, none of that stuff was organized. And so I was missing baseline ingredients and even baseline tools. So if a recipe called for paprika or smoked cayenne, I would have to go buy the whole jar, which would create this sense that like, okay, I just spent $4 on something that I just need a sprinkle of, and I'm not sure what I'm going to use it again. So it felt more expensive. Every meal just felt expensive. It wasn't until I met you that I realized the financial aspect, because back then, another reason it didn't feel expensive is because it wasn't competing with anything. Like I didn't have any other competing financial priority. Didn't have kids, didn't have mortgage, didn't really have anything to say like, oh, this is expensive compared to this thing over here. It was just like, that's just the cost of living. And once I started to pay down my debt, then I started to see the financial aspect. Like, oh, snap, I do spend a lot of money on food outside of my home.
yeah, most people do. And,
Yeah.
I remember that being one of the major baseline financial talking points that we came across around that 62%, and it being one of the big three. And depending on where you live and depending on how large your family is, it ain't number three in terms of the expenses that you spend money on in your household, especially if you've had the fortune of paying off a car note or something like that. It is very clearly number one or number two, just kind of depending on your lifestyle. But what was really interesting about you were saying, I was listening, but as I was thinking about it, I had a little bit of an aha moment, which was that this is a literacy issue, and
Yes,
we don't think of it
it
that way.
is.
And no one wants to think of it that way. And anytime we talk about literacy issues, I'm always reminded of the cultural and the social sensitivities around that phrasing, which goes back to the levels of shame that people feel when they start thinking about it, and why they skirt around language that even makes it seem as if the reason why I don't cook is because I don't know how to do it. All right. I don't know how to do it. No, and I'm not making fun of anyone,
No,
right?
I'm laughing because that's me.
But like it's that's what it ultimately boils down to. Like, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're looking at,
overwhelming.
you don't know how to interpret what's in front of you.
Yeah,
it's completely overwhelming, and it's like, God dang it! Like, this is it. I'm 40 plus years old, and I still don't know how to do blah blah blah.
Exactly.
And I'm frustrated, right? I need people to look at that the same way you can look at someone who could potentially be, and I've met people in their 50s who have a fourth grade reading level, right? They're still able to get a job. They're still able to get around, but they're not able to read a book.
Well, they can pronounce words. So like,
correct.
We know kids in our lives who can pronounce words. They know sight words. They know that A sounds like A, but they don't comprehend what they're reading. And it's like, well, then that's not reading, right? So I can make a couple things in the kitchen.
Correct.
I can warm up some things. I can make sure that we're fed. I can make sure we don't starve. But I don't feel like I can cook.
You can't nourish yourself.
Yeah, I don't feel like if I'm, maybe somewhere in my cycle and I need more iron, that I could say, all right, well, then the meal this week is going to be this, that, and the other. Or that I can walk into a home that has ingredients in the house and say, all right, well, it looks like tonight's going to be chicken rice with, something else. Like, I don't feel like I have that level of literacy.
Yeah, it's a science experiment.
It may be the word.
Yes, you are not able to conduct an edible science experiment based on the ingredients that are in your household, some of which may be in varying forms. Some may be frozen, some may be dried, some may be fresh. That's what cooking is.
Yes.
It is the transformation and the assembly of a variety of natural and in some cases unnatural things, assembling it in a way so that it tastes good, that it is the temperature that you're looking for, and it is hopefully also nourishing to your body, for yourself and your family, right? It's hard. Yeah. And I think when you look at it that way, and then you think about like, oh yeah, well, yeah, you're right. A lot of people definitely don't know how to do that. And you're right. There is an over-reliance on a food service system, going back to your earlier point, to solve for this problem that is profitable, but not necessarily in a way to benefit people in terms of their health or their wallets. And so I was having these thoughts, and I've had these thoughts in fleeting moments over the years, but recently I really had to pause because I was like, oh man, I think I'm getting that. I call it the entrepreneurial tingle. Like, I gotta scratch this itch.
It sounds like you need to see a doctor. I need get a prescription cream.
But like, because we come up with ideas all the time, but it's like, no, that's not worthy of investment. That's not something that I can see myself doing 2-3 years from now. And I said, you know what? I actually am in a position to do something about this. And as I'm looking at the broader media landscape and I'm seeing all the cooking content that's pushed out there, it's not addressing the problem.
No, it's not.
It is entertaining people.
Yeah.
It is trying funky, crazy things, but it is not actually teaching people how to cook themselves in a way that is good for their bodies, that is good for their wallets, and empowering, right? It's not doing that. And so that's when I said, you know what? I'm finally going to do what I'm sure, a couple dozen people, at least in my personal life, have wanted me to do for a really long time, which is to teach other people how to do it. And I wrecked my brain around how I was going to do it. I remember last year we were flirting with the idea of doing cooking classes, and I was like, yeah, but you can only do like 20, 30 people at a time. Like, that's impossible. Hell, you'd have to celebrate when you hit 1,000, and that might take you, 2 years to do it, right? This is what the internet was for. And so I said, you know what, let's bring back, I remember we wrote and published a self-published Eat Better on a Budget, which was years ago. It's an ebook. It's also available on Kindle. There'll be a link to it in our bio. But I said, you know what, let's bring that back. Let's reintroduce the ideas, because it's all valuable information. Not much has changed. If anything, there's so much more I would add to it, but I really wanted to add that video component. And back then, I don't even think shorts was a thing. Like,
it wasn't.
If you wanted to do a video, it had to be.
Video wasn't a thing.
Video was a thing.
In 2015?
YouTube, it wasn't 2015. It was 2017.
2017,
2018.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. it was a thing, but it wasn't
Yeah.
anything like it was today, right? Like social media and video content has evolved so much since then. And I started thinking about the examples that we had, like Good Eats, like Alton Brown back in the day, which was, that combination of Bill Nye meets cooking class. I was like, you know what? Let's do something about it. Let's just help people make more sense of like the environment that they're in, which is the kitchen, and the ingredients that they have to do something with. Like, recipes are not going to help you. Like, I can give you a recipe all day. But if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not confident, you don't understand the ingredients or the process, it's not going to help you. And so we decided to launch a video series called Eat Better. And it's been really, really fun to see the initial reactions. We'll share a couple later on. But that's what this conversation is about. It's about helping people realize that this is a huge deficiency in your life, but it is something that you can do something about. Because yes, we talk about money, and yes, we talk about the importance of saving money on food, but food has always been one of those areas where I feel like a lot of people feel like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're in this moment in time where it's like, all right, it doesn't have to be what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you're only buying these things because that's the only thing you know how to assemble. And as a result, you are completely bought into and a participant in the hyperinflation that we've experienced.
Correct.
You keep buying the eggs, you keep buying the ground beef because you don't know how to do anything else.
Right.
And
where else you can get it.
And correct. Or what else you can make that also tastes good. And I'll last thing I'll say was that this is a bit of an awakening for me, because like, I've been living in a bubble of know-how for 20 plus years. You know what I mean? This is something that is just normal to me. And it's really only been until the last couple of years where I realized that many of the people that I know who are in their 40s that I've known for 20 years, and I see some of the struggle plates that they post, and it's like, I'll be honest with you. I was like, I thought they were, I wouldn't post that. I wouldn't post that. But I realized that not a lot of people think of it that way. And again, this is why people go to restaurants. But it's like, wow, like, we are not quite as a culture able to prepare food at a level where I think we could be.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope to try to do my part to push it a little further, because it's so, so important.
I love this because whenever we're coming up with entrepreneurial ideas, like, I try to categorize them as either a vitamin or a painkiller. Vitamins are things like this podcast, where it's like not necessarily going to like give you a quick solution to your fix. Sometimes it does. Sometimes I give you exactly what you want to hear. But this is about building up resilience and immunity to the bullshit that's out there. It's a vitamin. You're supposed to take it regularly, and over time, you will see how things have changed. Painkiller products or ideas are not in, I'm going to just say, Julien's top of mind, because he's in a bubble. And so he doesn't have as much access to people in pain and the desperate measures that they take. But I think because we've been in youth sports and you've spent so much more time around families, and you see how moms in particular are struggling to feed themselves and their kids, and you have a acute understanding of how nutrition affects performance and brain activity and just awareness. And you see a lot of dads who are capable of doing more and just aren't. And I just think it's so cool that you would, one, step out of your comfort zone to do this, and two, that you're a man who's doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's another thing that we've talked about so many times privately. I don't know if we've ever said it on the podcast, but one of the biggest realizations, because when I first met you and learned that you could cook, I was just like, oh my God, like, there's nothing better than a man who can cook. And then
That's not what you said. You said a man that's fine.
That ain't what I said.
Rich and
that ain't what I said.
Don't try to
that
cut
ain't
off
what
mine.
I said. But you quickly popped my bubble and were like, most.
No.
You popped the bubble and said that, like, I mean, if you go to any restaurant, it's plenty of men cooking. If you go to any culinary school, most of the students are men. It is only when we talk about home, domestic roles, gender roles, that women are expected to do all of the cooking.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think it goes to show just how huge of an issue and an observation this is, because you can look at it from so many different standpoints. But I think that the gender roles, you talked about it when it comes to, who taught you. You didn't mention your dad.
Oh, my dad ain't been in the kitchen.
You know what I'm saying? You mentioned your mom
never seen.
And the role, but your dad taught you plenty of things, but he was not in a position to be able to teach you or probably even have a point of view on that. If anything, he probably didn't want you to learn how to cook, because he knowingly kind of saw it as a bit of a subservient activity, and he wanted more for you
Right.
based on the time that we're
Same with
in,
my
right?
mom.
Same with your mom,
Yeah.
right? She was like, you know what? I want you to be in a position where you don't even have to worry about
Yeah.
this. Unknowingly knowing that you're like not passing on like some really critical life skills.
Yeah.
But I had to check with Google Gemini, because I was like, what's going on? Like, what does this look like on a global or at least on a national scale? And so I asked it to give me a point of view on a percentage of men who cook in their homes. And what it gave me was that as of 2023, 52% of men reported cooking at home. And I thought, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. And then it said, well, this is an increase from 36% in 2003, which is 20 years ago. I've been talking about, I said it a couple of times. I've been cooking for 20 years. I've seen at home for 20 years. And so I really thought that was interesting because that felt much more like what I thought. But to your point, I've been in a bubble. I wake up post pandemic and realize that half of men are now cooking at home. And I personally find it really, really cool, especially when I see it online, because I think it, again, just to show you how expansive this conversation is, it falls right in line with so many of the other things that we see around millennial men and their approach to fatherhood. Like, to me, it just all goes hand in hand. But again, aside from the cost savings and the health benefits, I find cooking to also just be enjoyable, right? Like, it's also just fulfilling. I'm smoking ribs right now. You know what I mean? Like, we're
House smells
recording,
amazing.
and as soon as we're done, I'm going to go give it a little spritz, pull my ribs off and, vacuum seal them and have them ready to go for the future. Like,
Yeah.
might have it today, might have it in the future. But I have days like this. I have weeks like this, like especially right around this time where the seasons change, where I do a lot of cooking at home. And it's not just something that we do for our family and a cost savings. It's also because I enjoy it.
Yes.
And it's hugely beneficial for me and our family. And again, I know my son is learning by watching. Sometimes he helps me. And so, like, yeah, it's really, really cool. So like as a former chef, as a father, as a husband, it's like just one of the best feelings in the world to see your family like react and be like, dang, that was good. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoo, like I'm done, man. Like, when my son shows me his plate, it's like, or the bowl, it's like, look, man, whatever that was, like, that was amazing. So I want more people to have that feeling. And I think it's something that a lot of people can have, one step at a time.
Yes, I completely agree. And I do support that stat. That's what I've seen anecdotally. I've seen more men cooking. Like
Haven't we?
my brother cooks.
Your brother cooks,
Yes.
his
Now,
friends cook, like a
yes.
lot of them cook. It's a really interesting time that we're in.
What I think is happening is that people aren't classifying the kind of cooking that men do as cooking. And it absolutely counts. Like grilling. My brother grills.
Mhm.
I've never seen him like
He
stand
smokes,
over.
too.
He does smoke like food. But
Well,
like,
that's what I meant.
I mean, he smokes other things too, but he smokes his
Put
food
that man
and
business out there.
I meant cigars. Cigars.
Trying to be controversial. Get that man locked up. He's a father and a husband. What a good job.
The point is, grilling counts as cooking. It's not something that you have to reserve for the 4th of July, Memorial Day, or, when it's time to fry the turkey or whatever. I know that grilling is not the same as frying, but the point is, outdoor kitchens are still kitchens. And so if your husband can fire up a grill, if you bought him a grill for a Christmas or Father's Day gift in all these years, let's make sure that he uses it.
Yeah.
The other day, a baseball dad was yelling at his kid after practice, like moms usually do, like, come on, we got to go because I got to go cook. And this was a dad that I would have never guessed did the cooking for their household. But he was like, no, I already know what timing is. I got to feed you. I got to feed your sister. Your mom's at home. Wait, let's go. And then even your nephew went to culinary school, like following in your footsteps. Now, his job is not culinary at all.
Recently.
His recent job.
He just left the industry, which again, I'm not surprised by because it's been hit hard post-pandemic. But he stepped out of it. But I guarantee you, he still cooks regularly at home.
Absolutely.
Sure.
There's just something empowering about being able to feed yourself and the people that you love. And like you said, a lot of men are already doing this more so than any other time in the past. And I think what Eat Better will do is help them ramp it up. Feel a little more confident making vegetables or a pasta dish or, something other than like a protein. No shade to the men out there, but like, getting good with the sides.
Dude.
the sides and the
And that
salads
doesn't just mean
and the
macaroni and
desserts.
cheese, dude.
Yeah, right.
We can talk about that. I've
Right.
already gotten questions about mac and cheese. I got to figure out how to address
Yeah.
that really big topic. But, there's life outside of this box that we are in. So,
Well, I think you start with giving people what they want, but then to your point, talking about pasta as a whole, whether we're talking about pasta salad or whether we're talking about lo mein or just all the things that you can do with noodle dishes that aren't slathered in cheese and butter and eggs and
cream sauce,
cream sauce.
Alfredo.
All right, so we've touched on some of the things that make this so different, but I want to go back to something you said at the beginning because I think it's true. I was one of those people that watched cooking content all the time, and it turned me into this aspirational shopper and chef. I talk about this in Eat Better on a Budget, the ebook. But I talk about how part of the issue was that I was overspending on food because I was going in the grocery store shopping. Like I was shopping I shop at Macy's. There's a lot of cooking content that's out there, but very few of it is teaching us to be better cooks. When I think about TikTok tutorials, for example, they make things look easy until you realize that they're just optimized for views, for time, for engagement, but not real life.
So no, they're also intentionally ridiculous, right?
Yes.
And what's really frustrating for me as someone who appreciates food is that there are people who are. It's almost like how people get fooled by AI. Like they don't realize that wasn't real. That person didn't really say that. Like that's how I feel about a lot of TikTok cooking content.
Yes.
It's like people want to try these things, but they have no idea what they're actually doing is like makes no sense at all.
Yeah. It's great for ideas, but it's really bad for execution. Like if you try to line up your seasoning in the bowl, by dumping all of the cilantro right here, all the salt right here, all the pepper, like it's not going to be evenly spread over the food.
You're going to have one part of the chicken thigh that tastes like a bunch of chili powder, like to your point, and you're calling out something that I call out all the time. As soon as I see it, I'm like, I can't. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Then you got YouTube, and because YouTube is optimized for SEO, there are like thousands of videos on the best way to chop an onion, but there's not one cohesive system for how to get dinner to the table faster, which is the problem. People are trying to feed their families with limited time and now limited ingredients because of all this political and tariff and climate change. Like the things that you may be used to going to, your go-tos may not be available. And what are you going to do? Like you need to figure out how to develop a system for eating better on a budget. And then the last part is just cookbooks, food contests, food blogs, all that stuff. Like, I just think that they assume that you already know how to blend the terminology with the proper technique. So they'll use words like saute, and I've heard of saute before. Lots of people have, but do you actually know when the food is done? Correct. Do you actually know when to stir or when to stop or when to add in the cream or whether or not you've overcooked it or what to add when it's not browning the correct way, whatever it is? It's like trying to learn a language by watching a movie with no subtitles, like with the subtitles off. You know what a saute is, but it matters. The technique absolutely matters. And so I just feel like you have the experience level across all fronts, from your culinary background to your social media and marketing background, to just help people eat better. And I'm telling you, like, you want a mood change, you want a lift, like everything from depression to, like, there are so many issues that start in the gut. And so eating better isn't just about like the flex of having a cool plate to post on Instagram. It's about your life. It's about quality of life. It's about making sure that you go through the days fueling your body and your brain and your spirit and your soul with things that actually help and not harm.
Yeah. So look, this is a living, breathing thing, right? Like we are already publishing videos. If you don't follow us on YouTube,
go
then
follow it. Hit the follow button. Hit the follow button.
Subscribe. I've posted a
Subscribe.
couple on Instagram, on Facebook as well, but all of them will live on YouTube because it's more searchable there, a lot easier to find, and you can put a lot more actual helpful information in the description versus other social media channels. But in terms of what people can expect, there's like deep dives into ingredients, into tools, helping people understand like which tools are actually useful, like don't waste your money on these things, how to buy certain things if you're in the market for something. I want to spend a lot of time talking about cooking techniques, right? Notice I haven't said the word recipes yet, right? Not that I won't do recipes, but again, I think it's really important that people understand that recipes are really only relevant to people who know and have a certain culinary IQ or literacy level to actually understand it. But a lot of people don't even understand the fundamentals of salt, like basic things, right? So there'll be a lot of that, but there'll also be some really interesting techniques that I'll be talking about to help people cook better and as a result, eat better at home. Obviously, there will be some meals, cheap meals, easy to make meals, those kinds of things. But I also am most excited about things that I would still categorize as unexpected, like things that I've never done before, probably never thought that I would do, but YouTube allows you to just go live. And so imagine a world where if you want to know how I do something, I'll just do it live, because it's a lot easier to just do it live than it is for me to try to create some fancy video and crunch it into 60 seconds or 3 minutes, right? Like if you really want to know, let's walk you through how to do it step by step. You can see everything. And the cool thing is, thanks to my amazing wife, I've got the cameras already set up, but I also have the Meta glasses. And so there'll be that first person point of view. So you can see literally what I'm seeing. Won't be able to do that on live, but you can do that with some future videos. I also want to do some Q&As. We've already done that. We've thrown out some questions like, I don't know what you guys want, what you really have questions about. And so, like I said, I've been living in a bubble, and we've received a couple of questions already, and it's been kind of cool just to kind of see, for me to be like, oh, wow, I guess, okay, so that is a thing. I was right, that people did not know that was a thing. Like one of the first questions we got was from our friend Kevin, who I think he lives in Tulsa area.
They're in North
No, he's
Carolina.
not in Tulsa. That's
He's
right.
from
We met up with
Tulsa.
him in Tulsa. He's from Tulsa, but he's in North Carolina. That's right. And that's where we saw him for the book tour. But he's a great example of a husband and a dad. I've literally watched his cooking journey over the years.
Yeah,
He's
watched him make his
damn
first
near
brisket.
perfected his brisket
Yeah.
recipe. You know what I mean? And so, but he didn't know white pepper was a thing.
A lot of people don't know white pepper.
He was like, "Oh, they got their own pepper." I was like, "No, it's its own. It's peppercorn. There's black peppercorn and there's white peppercorn. It's not peppercorn that we're not allowed to have. It's not
segregated
it's
peppers.
Not. He was like, "It's GI peppers. I've been cooking with." No, it's a different pepper altogether. But like little stuff like that, like people just don't even know exists. And I told them jokingly, but I was serious. I was like, now the next time you go to the grocery store, you're going to see it, right? Because it's been staring you right in the face the whole time. But again, out of sight, out of mind. You don't know what that is. You just don't even recognize it. Whereas I can walk into a grocery store and I kind of have a better idea of everything that's in front of me. So
I love this comment from our friends at Women's Personal Finance who said, I will never, ever order a steak out because my husband makes it so much better. Girl, me too.
That ever. And it's funny.
Never, ever.
Look, and I responded to her. I said, look, man, like, first of all, making a steak at home, like that tends to be the biggest thing that people realize. And I use that as a prime example because it may not be a huge cost saving, but when you think about the importance of a fancy steak dinner and the role that it plays in like romantic relationships and all these kinds of things, and the acceptance of how expensive a steak dinner could be, like all in, right? Like it's so expensive. And then when you think about it, you can do this at home, right? And there's not just one way, like there's so many ways that you can actually make a better steak at home. And once you figure that part out, to their point, you will never order a steak. Like, why would I willingly go spend $300 for a warm, overcooked piece of meat that I can literally perfect, get it exactly the way that I want it, when I want it at home? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but this is what people do because they don't know how to make it on their own. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about that, probably 10 times over, but yeah, you can and should make your own steaks at home and more often, if nothing else.
That's an important part of our message, because just because you can't afford to eat out does not mean you can't afford to eat it.
Doesn't mean you can't have a great dining experience.
Yes, like you can eat in, you can have steak, you can have lobster, you can have crab cakes, you can have oysters, you can have a great cocktail. You can have all of that stuff at home. It just requires you to spend a little bit of time skill building and maybe make a small initial investment in whatever tools that you may need or ingredients or just your approach, whatever you're going to do. But then you can have it as often as you want for a fraction of the price.
And in some cases, you can literally buy off the shelf at Costco the exact same thing that they're serving in restaurants and get it the same way. Like, you can do this.
Yes.
It's a great way to save a ton of money. We got another question from the good sis, Auntie Sandra, who's out in Oakland, I believe. Her comment / question was, I have a lot of spices, but I don't use them well. How do I meal prep using different flavors? I think what she was really describing here was what I call boring chicken syndrome, right? It's like, I eat a lot of chicken.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it. It all kind of tastes the same.
Chicken start tasting too chickeny.
Everything is everything starts to blend together. I get that. And my reply to her, and it's something that we will also talk about at some point in this series, is that you got to think less about the spices and spend more time thinking about the sauces, you know, the gravies or whatever it is. That tends to be the more dominant kind of flavor profile on whatever dish that you're making. But it's a really good question because, again, it's that little thing. It's that being tired of eating the same thing that triggers people to just say, I would rather just order in. And it's like, if we could just fix that one little thing, you don't have to eat food that's not good for you. And certainly you don't have to spend a bunch of money Uber Eatsing something that's just going to arrive at your door. And it's 3 times more expensive than it would be if you were eating there. And we already said, 4 times more expensive plus a delivery fee, you know, for and something that you don't even really enjoy either.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this is this weird cycle that we're in. And like I said, I got that feeling. And I said, you know what? I think now is the time. Like if ever there was a time where I feel like people are really sensitive to the price hike and feeling like they can't do anything about it, I want to change that and teach them how to do something about it.
Amen. So we're going to end with each saying what we're most looking forward to. I'm going to go first.
Okay.
Or you want to go first?
I think I already said, like, I am legitimately, like, honestly, like, you talked about my experience with coaching. Like, I've seen kids go from not being able to hold a baseball bat to, like, one of my kids that I coached went from, like, literally not understanding what was going on to hitting his first inside the park home run the other day. Right. Like, and I know I played a role in that development. So I'm looking, like, in a culinary standpoint, that's from, the friends that I've known for 20 plus years who have been posting some of the ugliest looking Thanksgiving plates I've ever seen. And for me, it's like, yo, I can help you.
So you looking forward to less struggle
I'm
plates?
looking forward to seeing less struggle plates on my feed come Thanksgiving. I'm going to help with that for sure. If for no other reason than because it makes my timeline look more aesthetically pleasing.
You know what?
I'm looking forward to helping people.
Okay. That's a good answer.
That's what I meant. But like, there's also like people taking pride, and it's no different than, a fitness instructor looking forward to seeing this new version of you, after whatever. So yeah, mine is just in the kitchen.
I am most looking forward to the day where I get to look you in your eyeballs and say, I told you so. I told your black ass. I told you so. I told you so. Because the day, I'm looking at the camera now, the day ones know. If you go back to almost every food episode we've done, I have told him to do this. I have told him that he needs to teach people how to use a knife, teach people how to sharpen a knife, teach people how to store food. Like, you need to show people how to do this. Like, I hear you saying they need to do this, but you gotta help them. And so I'm very, very happy that you're taking the leap. And I look forward to that day where I get in your face. Told you.
And the real ones recognize passive aggression when they see it. Right? They realize that. Notice how she didn't say she ain't going to subscribe or cook nothing either.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the day where I prepare a meal for my family.
So am I.
Yeah.
So am I. We're going to bring Bo back on the show. Bo is a lot more vocal now. That's what we're going to do.
Bo would be good. Talk about how food works in our house.
Yeah, he will. He'll be the first one to tell
it.
He will.
Snitch. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Rich and Regular Podcast. If you like what you heard, you already know what to do. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation going. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And don't be afraid to leave us questions, right? There's a literal
Yes.
short, there is a place where I am soliciting and receiving questions. So like
Yeah,
that will dictate what I focus on. You need help, I'm here to help. So you
that's
let me
it.
know what you got questions about, and that will, without question, be one of the first things that we just start sharing what you got.
Yes. And before you buy something, like ask us what we think about it. Like if
Yeah.
you talking about buying, whatever Hashitashi appliance,
I will
leave.
make a video for you. And the 100 other people who are like Sierra who've been watching and probably had the same question. And dude, I'm not knocking, but this is how it works. And so we've got to
Yes.
get to the heart of it. I want this at the end of the day to be a community. I don't know what it's going to be, but my hope is that it's something big and cool and helpful and fun for everybody involved. And, tag me in the success stories too, not just the struggle plates.
All right, y'all. We will see y'all next week. If you like videos like this and want to see more, make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications.